All right. So, oh, Jody's online. Carol, hi. All right, we're going to go ahead and begin.
Mike, can you go ahead and make that a gallery view so we can see everybody? And they can gesture at us if they want to. All right, yay, there we all are.
Oh, and there's
Hello.
Great, well, welcome. This was Lori's idea, and I think it was a great one to have an Advent toolbox. I grew up in a tradition that didn't observe Advent. And when I discovered it, I was at home. Because the season of Advent, as it was explained to me, is Adventist, waiting the coming. And it is often liturgically a lot more subdued and quiet, observing the rhythms of nature as it gets colder and into hibernation and that sort of thing. And so this introduction of the Advent wreath, which I have before us now, was new to me. And lighting it in the evening before a meal and saying some prayers around it was a great new tradition. And so I know it's not Advent, but I'm going to light one of the candles just so that we can have it lit while we talk. So typically we light it at night and say prayers right before a meal, but it can be done at any time. I was gifted this book. I don't know if you can see it there. It's called All Creation Waits, and it was given to me by Alex and Mark Donovan, and it has become one that I've appreciated in this season. And I was just going to read some of the comments about Advent that are at the introduction of this book. It's by Gail Voss, and it's All Creation Waits, the Advent Mystery of New Beginnings. And what it does is it takes an animal for every day of Advent and talks about what it does during the winter months. And so I'm going to just read a little bit from the introduction and then also read one of the meditations, but I highly, highly recommend it. The early church fathers of the Christian church read the ebbing of light and heat and vegetable life each year as a foreshadowing of the time when life as we know it will end completely. That it will end is the rock bottom truth we sense deep in our primal bones every December, and it rightly terrifies us. To there in our abiding fear of the dark ending, the church spoke of an Adventus, a coming. Faith proclaimed, when life as we know it goes, this year and at the end of all years, one comes and comes bringing a new beginning. Advent to the church fathers was the right naming of the season when light and life are fading. They urged the faithful to set aside 4 weeks to fast, give, and pray, always to strip down, to let the bared soul recall what it knows beneath its fear of the dark, to know what Jesus called the one thing necessary, that there is one who is the source of all life, one who comes to be with us and in us, even especially in darkness and death, one who brings a new beginning. This is Christian tradition at its best, moving in step with creation. When the sun's light and heat wane, the natural world lets lushness fall away. It strips down. All energy is directed to the essentials that ensure survival. Engaging in Advent's stripping practices, fasting, giving away, praying, we tune into the rhythms humming in the cells of all creatures living in the Northern Hemisphere. We tune into our own essential rhythms. So as I mentioned, this book is 25 meditations that are paired with original woodcuts that reflect on how wild animals adapt when darkness and cold descend. and we hear as if for the first time the ancient wisdom of Advent. The dark is not an end, but the way a new beginning comes. So I have to read one of these meditations. The first, it's story time, is called Painted Turtle. And so as I mentioned, it pairs a woodcut with each meditation. And this was a mother who wrote these for her children and had an Advent calendar that opened up to an animal each day of Advent. This is called Painted Turtle, and it's Advent 1. The day is bright and warm for December 1st, but the logs in the marsh pond are bare. Spring to summer into early fall, they served on sunny days as spa to a dozen or so painted turtles. I would even see them basking, splay-legged, stretching their leathery necks out full length, avid for every luscious atom of sunlight and sun warmth. Out of sight now, they've not escaped the harsher cold that's coming. The water is maybe waist deep in this pond, but a murky soup clogged with roots and plants. One day in the fall, as water and air cooled at some precise temperature, an ancient bell sounded in the turtle brain, a signal. Take a deep breath. Every creature slipped off her log and swam for the warmer muck bottom. Stroking her way through the woven walls of plant stems, she found her bottom. She closed her eyes and dug into the mud. She buried herself. And then, pulled into her shell, encased in darkness, she settled into a deep stillness. Her heart slowed and slowed, almost to stopping. Her body temperature dropped and stopped just short of freezing. Now, beneath a layer of mud, beneath the weight of frigid water and its skin of ice and skim of snow, everything in her has gone so still she doesn't need to breathe. And anyway, the iced over pond will soon be empty of oxygen. Sunk in its bottom mud for 6 months, she will not draw air into her lungs. To survive a cold that would kill her or slow her so that predators would kill her, she slows herself beyond breath in a place where breath is not possible and waits. As ice locks in the marsh water and howling squalls batter its reeds and brush, beneath it all, she waits. It is her work, her one work, and it is not easy. Oxygen depletion stresses every particle of her. Lactic acid pools in her bloodstream. Her muscles begin to burn. Her heart muscle, too, a deadly sign. That acid has to be neutralized, and calcium is the element to do it. Out of her bones, then out of her shell, her body pulls calcium, slowly dissolving her structure, her shape, her strength. But to move to escape, requiring breath in a place where there is no oxygen, that would suffocate her. So though she is dissolving, every stressed particle of her stays focused on the silver bead of utter quietude. It's this radical simplicity that will save her. And deep within it, at the heart of her stillness, something she has no need to name, but something we might call trust. That one day, yes, the world will warm again, and with it, her life.
Wow.
Yeah.
So each day, a meditation on an animal in winter. It's a lovely resource. So today we're trying to make you aware of some Advent resources for your own toolbox. That is one. Another one that I've discovered last year, it was a gift to me. I preached off it many times. It's called Honest Advent by Scott Erickson. And he gave nuance to the story that I hadn't experienced before. I'm not going to read from it today, but a highly recommended book, Honest Advent. Lori, why don't you go ahead?
All right.
Lori, did you, were you holding that in there or did you actually want to send that? The link has not been sent yet.
Oh yeah, go ahead and send it now that everybody's on. That'll be good. So that link is to the documents that I'll be using today, so you can get it there. And then I'll put it on the website also, so that anybody who's not here can get it from there afterwards. But for today, you can get it from the link in the chat box. So one of the kind of first things that you can do as part of the Advent slowing down and waiting for the birth of the new that Felicia was just talking about is an Advent calendar. It goes along with the Advent wreath in a way. But in the Advent calendar, each day gives you a way of preparing for the coming. So it's a particular task, and it's also a way of counting off the days. And I've got several examples that I wanted to share with you. Each one of them has its own neatness about it. So the first one is the Advent calendar that comes, it's from the, here we go. Oh, that camera's gonna be a pain. Hold still. There we go. It's the one that comes from Michael Curry and his Rules of Life. His rule, yeah. And so I'm going to pass these around to you. And each one gives you a task and some readings, and they're just a lot of fun. This one. I need to get my glasses. There we go. I set it up on the screen. So Advent, so for instance, the Sunday the 3rd, Advent 1, gives you a reading and then asks the question, how do the symbols of the Advent season help you understand the story of Jesus? So you can see that that's a question that you can ask yourselves, your kids, your grandkids, whoever will hold still long enough for you to talk to them about it. And then where do you see them in your worship today? So, you know, that's an example of some of the things that show up here. And notice that under rest, which is every Saturday, the tasks are putting things aside. Spend 45 minutes outside, put your phone on airplane mode, set aside 30 minutes to spend in silence with your best friend. Ooh, silence with your best friend.
You have to be a best friend to be in silence.
So that's one, and you can see how it helps to give you something each day to remind you of the beauty of the season and the importance of it, and to kind of walk towards the Christmas event. So here's another one. This one came from a place called Contemplative Cottage, and there's actually two on here, one on the front and one on the back. I know I gave you too many ones. This one. And on the back is another one still. But so this one is the Celtic Advent, and you can see that it's actually a longer Advent practice. It begins 40 days before Christmas and goes clear through Epiphany. So we get both the Advent and Christmas season. It's not one that I have tried before, but it looks like a really fun one. Give someone you love a long hug is one of them. Kneel down when you greet and talk to a child. You know, things like that. That again remind us of how we're connected and and who we are as a people. So that's another one that you can use. On the back is one that I created. I have had a practice for the last few months, I guess, and it's just being outside with my camera and seeing the things that really point to God for me and taking a picture of them. And so I thought, well, heck, why not make that into an advent calendar? And people can go out and do something with their camera. So I gave some suggestions for each day for the advent calendar.
And if you follow Lori on Instagram, you can see her pictures because she posts them.
Really?
So she has an eye for God and beauty of creation.
Yeah. Which the Celts call the big, what is it? The
Big book.
Book.
Big
It's a
book.
big book.
The Bible is the little book.
The Bible's a little book. right?
Creation is the big book.
And then one of the things that we have for the church to do is a reverse advent calendar. So I'm handing these out to you too. And there's going to be actually a table in the fellowship hall there where you can bring these things, and then they will be used for the little pantry outside, which if you don't know where that is, it's out in front of the church. And we try and stock it every day so that people who need things can just come by and get them, no questions asked. No
Do you keep
difficulties.
it pretty full?
We try. A lot of times it depletes
Depletes?
pretty fast, yeah, but it does get restocked every day, so.
I was somewhere else. Where did you say this is located?
So the table where we can make our donations is right outside in the fellowship hall.
Okay.
And you'll see it, it'll say reverse Advent.
Oh, okay.
So,
But then the box is out by the street.
yeah, the place where it gets shared with the public is the little box out by the street there. It's kind of like a little library box, but instead it's got food in it, yeah.
So the donation is here and then it's taken out to the
Yeah.
street. I get it.
The table is the room you're right in. If you go out the door and turn left into the fellowship hall, that's the table. I think there's a little basket. So you can donate to that
Anytime.
anytime, but this is sort of an intentional gathering of items.
Thanks, Judy.
Thank you.
This is good because I brought some today, but I didn't know exactly what you want.
Uh-huh, okay, yeah. Yeah, so this will help. Yep. And it's been updated from last year, so it's the latest thing, I guess. Oh, yeah. So that's that one. And then this last one is something that Wealtha actually found from Forward Day by Day. And you can go online, there's a little QR code there, and see what they have to say about each of these words. But each word is from one of the readings of the day. And so the idea is to focus on the word and see what it calls up in you and reflect on it. And so, and then they give you more resources on the website. So again, these are ways of focusing ourselves in this time that Felicia named, the bye.
Have a good week.
In this time of coming into the darkest season where we're welcoming the birth of something brand new and something that we as Christians link to Christ. Then there's another kind of discipline that I find very helpful for Advent, as for any other time actually. And that's the daily examine or examine. I never know how to pronounce it. But the original form is this one. It's a Loyola, Ignatius of Loyola discipline. And it's something that you can do every night as you get ready for bed, either by yourself or with your loved one. And it's a way of looking back at the day to see what in it kind of, well, to use it as a way of telling you about yourself and who you are, maybe what you need to work on, but also what's important to you, what's valuable to you, and where you find the joy that is that recognition of, oh yeah, this is me, this is what's really valuable. So in this one, this particular examine, you begin by sitting still and asking God for light. So you want to look at your day with God's eyes. That's kind of what you ask for in prayer, and not merely your own. And once you've kind of settled in and relaxed and focused, then you give thanks and note that the day that you've just been in is a blessing, something that comes from God. And some days that's really hard, you know. Those days when you had a flat tire, you didn't work on time, everybody was mad at you. So to think of those days as a blessing is sometimes hard, but nonetheless, it's better than an alternative, right? Not having that day. And then you review the day. So this is in your imagination, go back and look at the various things that happened in the day. So say it's the flat tire day, you know, you have a flat tire and it's a million degrees below zero outside and you're like stuck on the side of the road. What happens? How do you feel? How do you deal with it? What comes up? Who do you meet in the course of the whole thing? Maybe it's the police officer who comes and helps you get well off the road, or maybe it's the guy who comes and you call your AAA service, or maybe you don't have a AAA service, but some nice person helped, you know, stopped and helped you, whatever it is. Those are sort of messages from the Holy Spirit, what it is that happened, where you found the joy, where you found connection, all those things. You went to the grocery store, you neglected to talk to the homeless person outside because last time you talked to her, this happened to me, so it's really my story. Because last time I talked to her, she berated me for not giving her any money, so I don't want to talk to her anymore. You know, it's like, I'm not going to do it anymore, that kind of thing. And then what does God have to teach me about that experience? Is that a place that I want to stay and be in? Or is that just a transition point along the way? So all of those sorts of things become part of the review of the day. And the Holy Spirit guides you in which ones you remember and which ones you don't. So, you know, if you don't remember every single moment, that's okay, because there are a lot of them that really don't make that much difference. But there are some that will come back to you either as really good, joyful moments or not so great moments. The fourth step is to face your shortcomings, you know, so in mine, it's like sneaking away without talking to the homeless woman. It was a shortcoming. And then I just sort of talked to God about it. What was that about, and how could it be different? And what do I need that helps me in those moments? Where do I remember that my source of light and love is? All those things help me. And then the final step after you've done that, you can write it down or just sit with it, or wherever feels natural to you. The final step is to look toward the day to come and to just say, you know, God, I need you here in these moments where I'm faced with unpleasant strangers, or I need you here in the moment when I'm at the side of the road and I'm terrified. You know, whatever it is, this is where you ask God to come in. But it's also where you can see what it is that has made you most joyful, and where it is that you might need to build more of those joyful moments, and what things you can let go of that are life sucking, you know. And that kind of brings me to the next one on the back, which is another kind of daily exam. And this also is from the Ignatian tradition, but this was developed by a woman who did the spiritual direction formation practice in the Ignatian way of looking at things. So her thing is called, I can't remember what. Anyway, she's in Denver, and I can't remember what her place is called. Used to be Faith and Work, but that's not that anymore.
And Ascension Center for Spirituality.
That's it. Yeah, that's the
Hi,
one.
Thorgrim.
Thorgrim, yeah. So Thorgrim is the one who created this one, and I really love it. Roseanne and I do this one together a lot of times. So in this one, again, the first step is to become aware of God's presence by resting and relaxing, letting go of to-do lists and worries. And then when you're ready, you ask yourself these 4 questions and give yourself time to really let your soul speak, and finish with a short prayer of gratitude. So the first question is, what surprised you today? Was it something you read, something someone said to you, an unexpected visit, a person acting in a surprising way? How will you hold that surprise, letting it influence your life? Question 2, what moved you today? What moved your heart? Was it an incident, something you saw on the internet or television, something you read, an interaction with another person? How were you moved and why? So again, you see that these questions really help you focus on what brought joy to you, where you felt connected with God, what was difficult, what you want to let go of. One of the third question is what challenged you to go deeper, which I think is always an excellent question. Like, you know, what was it that I stumbled over that made me think, ooh, I need to learn more about this in one way or another? And the final one is what inspired you? What was the messages or stuff that inspired you in the day? So any questions about all of that?
Or comments?
Or comments?
Wonderful. Know that our sweet little Terry Birdsong does examine every night. So I love this one, Rivers of Life.
Yeah, it's a really good one, really accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gives you a good focus. Questions from the Zoom folks?
Lori, I really liked and appreciated the Rivers of Life that you just shared, because the original Ignatian examine, if I do it at night, it just gets my monkey brain going for the rest of the night. And so sleep may or may not come. This one feels, it's just a little different way of nuancing those same kinds of things, but I like it.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. It's a really neat tool. Yeah. I find myself falling back on it over and over again when I kind of lose track of other spiritual practices. This one is always a good fallback for me.
Yeah. I especially like the one, what surprised you today? And I thought of something that happened last evening, and it was dark out. It was like 8 o'clock, and I saw this flashlight walking down my path, which is considerable from the road. And the doorbell rang, and I thought, who is this? So I opened the door, turned the lights on, and it was my neighbor across the street. And he said, I have your blueberries and your parsley and your sage for you. And I looked at him and I said, huh?
Right.
I said, why? And he says, well, you asked me to get them in your text this morning. And I said, Stefan, I didn't. He said, but you did. And I said, let me get my phone and I'll show you. So I got my phone, and here we are. He's 30, I'm 80. And we're both thinking the other person is going crazy, you know? So that was a surprise, but yet it was a good surprise. You know, we got to interact, and
Oh, yeah.
that just came to mind when you went through that.
That's neat.
They weren't mine. They were another Carol down the road.
Oh, too bad. Blueberries and parsley sound great.
So he felt worse than I did, you know?
Yeah, Yeah,
But you got, it surprised you. You got to visit with your neighbor. That's a
Right.
great story.
Yes.
yeah, and you can see how that would sort of lead you if you sort of think about it a little bit into the warmth of connection with each other, and also how that leads to the warmth of connection with God. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All righty. The other thing I wanted to talk about is ways of prayer. How are we doing?
Yeah.
Pretty good. Okay. So, prayer can kind of go hand in hand with the examine practice, also with um, the calendars, and with the wreath, as Felicia was saying, that, you know, that's part of the practice of lighting the Advent wreath. With calendars, I'm so distressed a lot of times of how many of these calendars just get put out commercially, you know, and they're just really bizarre things. Like you were talking about that one that was beauty products.
Beauty products. Yeah. Everyone's capitalizing on it, you know.
Yeah.
So it was Bed Bath and Beyond. Yeah.
A friend of mine gave me one that is teas.
Ah. Well, you know, that actually might,
That might have some,
yeah, if you used your cup of tea to do an examine for you.
the trouble is they're all caffeinated.
Oh.
Doesn't help you wind down, does it?
You can begin.
I could begin the day with that.
You just have to
It could be in the beginning of the day.
That's true. So anyway, having ones that are more clearly God focused, I think, or make it really cool. So ways of prayer. The obvious ones are the pretty simple ones. You know, you light your Advent wreath and then you pray for the people who are in distress. You pray for your own needs. You pray for the needs of family, friends. You might ask an intention, like having done your examine and discovered that, yeah, you really need to move into a place where you're where you get to exercise your gifts more. You might make that an intention and pray about that, asking for God's help and guidance and so on. So all those things are kind of conversations with God, ways of having conversation with God. And it doesn't have to be really formal at all. Conversations with God, in my experience, are really pretty informal. Things like, huh? You know, what did you do that for? What do you want from me around that issue? Things like that. And then there are, again, a couple of practices that give you a little more structure in prayer. Lectio Divina and Visio Divina. So Lectio is a time-honored practice for talking to God through the process of choosing something written. And it can be pretty much anything. It can be poem, it can be your romance novel, it can be scripture, whatever it is. But the idea is that you read it in a contemplative way, meaning that the first thing you do, and this is, I think, an important thing for any kind of prayer, is you find a place that feels right for prayer. For some people, it's at the kitchen table. For me, no, because that's where my family is all around me, and it doesn't work to help me concentrate and feel like I'm present with God. And I've tried different places. You know, there was a place that was in a little office that I had once, and there was, you know, just different things. And I finally discovered that the two places that work for me best are my big blue chair in my studio, which is kind of this huge enveloping blue chair, or sitting at a little table that has a candle on it that is kind of next to my computer. And those are the places that work. They're the places where I can find myself relaxing, becoming quiet inside and just sitting with God, just being present in the moment with God. So the first thing is to pick your place. And that's important because if you don't have the right place, then it's hard to really relax into the sort of contemplative space that we're talking about. And you can really beat yourself up. Oh, I can't do it. Why can't I do it? I'm such a bad person at this. When it's just a matter of not being in the right place. And so, kind of move around, see what feels good. See what you like to have with you in that space. Is it a candle? Is it little figurines of things that are important to you? Is it photos? Whatever it is, to create that space intentionally. And then the other thing is to have a certain time that really works for you. Some people do better in the morning, some people do better at lunchtime, and some in the afternoon. I know I have friends who in the afternoon they're pretty much wiped out, and so they don't really feel like that works very well to try and
Unless you can
contemplate.
combine contemplation and a nap.
Which you can. You can combine contemplation and a nap. There is nothing wrong with that idea. Yeah. Okay, so then when you've done that, you start your reading. And you read only as far as something really stands out, as soon as like a sentence and just goes wing inside you. And you go, ha, that must be what God wants me to focus on. You take that sentence and then read the passage again and see if that still stands out, or see if there's something, some modification of it or whatever. And that will give you a sense of what it is. And that's the word of God that will pop out at you. And then you ponder the phrase or the sentence. What does it mean? What does it make you think of? What do you feel as you consider it? What memories come up? And then how is God using the phrase to speak to you? What is it that God is trying to say to you in this phrase? And what is God asking of you? And then after you've done that, you've kind of, and you can do it with friends too. That part of it is something that you can share. A lot of Lexio groups will do that. We'll share the passage, things that stand out and why. But then after that, you thank God for participating with you in pondering. And then you let your heart and your head guide you in whatever response you're going to make. And it could be an outpouring of a poem or a song, or it could be doing something in the world. It could be writing a check to ERD, as I say here. Whatever your response, it's a way of expressing what you've taken in and being thankful, and then releasing the conversation of God in your life. And then when you've done that, you can simply be with God in silence. Just be still and enjoy the presence of God. One person put it like, pretend like you're a little kid playing on the steps, and God is like the grandparents swinging on the porch, and you're just there together in silence. So that's Lexio. Any questions about that? Or thoughts or comments from those of you who may have practiced it?
It sounds like work to me. To be that quiet, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think being in quiet can be work, especially at first. Yeah. So,
Just letting your,
yeah.
it's not easy for me.
I don't know that, I mean, some people I think are more adept to silence and stillness than others, but it's also cultivated. It's been my experience. And I remember going into spiritual direction the first time I was going to attempt a silent retreat. And the director said, just know that the first couple days are really going to be challenging because the monkey mind is going. And then as you move into the quiet, it takes some time, but it does subside. It does begin to
It
subside.
isn't that I need things outside of me, it's just that I can't quiet my head.
But you can. It just is, yeah, it's hard.
And
It's
there
very
are,
difficult.
Yeah.
yeah, there are tricks that you can use to help. Like focusing on your breathing is one. Or you can even have a little mantra that you say, you know, like, a standard one for iconographers, for instance, is Lord Jesus Christ, be present here with me. You know, just something like that that keeps the monkey mind occupied.
In centering prayer, it's just a single word,
Yeah.
often, just every time your little mind starts, then any word you choose, flame. I'm looking at that, and so today it would be flame. Just returning back, making sure that God is not always getting a busy signal when he's calling you.
I find labeling the thoughts to be the most helpful. The distractions, that's what Bishop Ball Center had taught me years ago. It's like, you know, worrying, thinking, whatever, or it could be itch, you know, noise outside, whatever, like is distracting me. Because once I get the habit of labeling it, then I'm actually kind of like watching for it. So like I'll kind of see it when it's gonna come. It like tunes me into sort of like observe the thoughts almost like right as they happen. I would recognize right when I get distracted, so then I can go back a lot faster before I just kind of get lost. in that
That's
thought.
That's cool. I'm
That's
gonna
really
try
great.
that.
Yeah. Could
That's
you all
a neat
hear
one.
that online? Could you hear Mike?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
It's almost like when you're having difficulty sleeping at night and you train your mind to say, toes go to sleep. Something like that, where
Yeah.
you're, I mean, this is what it sounds like to me, because I have trouble quieting my mind at night as well. And I lots of times have to go through that exercise to leave the day behind me and actually go into sleep. It's kind of that same sort of state.
And you might actually, with that particular issue, you might actually find the examen really helpful. And try that out, the one that speaks to you, because it is a way of leaving the day behind. And, yeah. The other thing is to you do it just for a few minutes to start with, and then build up time over time, you know. Not beat yourself up when you get into monkey mind. Yeah, I love that idea of labeling things. That really is helpful. One thing that centering prayer practice, Thomas Keaton tells you, is that your thoughts are like these things that float by in the river of life, you know, and you can think of yourself as being on the shore, and there go the thoughts floating by, and to try not to jump on the barge with them, but stay on the shore. Yeah. Yeah, thanks. That was helpful. Thanks for the question.
Helpful to me, thank you.
Not beating yourself up.
No beating yourself up,
Right.
because we all are there.
I've done a lot of beating in my day.
And the final prayer practices that I want to talk about is Visio Divina. And this is something that you do with an image instead of with writing. And so you do the same thing to begin as with the other practice. But instead of having a reading in front of you to work with, pick an image. You can use one of the ones from your other practice of taking photos during the day. Or there's also somewhere in this pile, there's a link to a light and shadow site that looked really promising for this. This guy, the Honest Advent guy, has a website where he has a lot of images, and that's another place to go for images to reflect on. And so what you do there is once you've kind of found yourself in silence, yeah, there's the shadow and light resources there. Once you've found your silent place, then you can, use the image instead. So for instance, let's see, Mike, could you scroll down to the, well, back up again to that one, yeah.
Which one?
The one that's mainly on the screen right now. What is it? Elizabeth and Mary, I think it looks like.
Mary and Joseph? Oh,
The image that's right there.
oh, you
it's
just want the
there.
image.
Yeah, just the image, yeah. So on that one, there's the image. And the first thing that you do is just let your mind go through the image and wander around and notice all the different parts of it, so there are the little pointy things up in the corners that have crosses at the end. There's the kind of fan above the two women, and the women with their different colored halos. And, just kind of take it all in, what they're doing and what they are holding and what's in the background. And as you do, just breathe deeply and focus on the different things. And underneath their feet, there's those little archways of different sorts. And then as you do that, you'll maybe find something that really holds your attention and kind of calls out to you to pay attention. So for me today, it's that little baby in the womb. It's kind of a little tiny child that's the center of that whole image, but so small you can barely see it, and that would be what I would focus on. So you just sit with that. What's God trying to tell me in that? What's God's message for me today? And showing me that little piece of that little image. And I think of all kinds of things, like a friend of mine used to complain bitterly because when she'd go around the neighborhoods looking at Christmas decorations, which is something that happens in Advent a lot, there'd be these giant displays of Santa Clauses and reindeer and lights flashing and so on. And then you'd have to look clear over in the corner, and there would be the creche, Mary and Joseph and the animals, a very quiet space in that large kind of commercial display. And I always thought that was neat, though. It's like there's a place in us for that. And so then that leads me to think of places for new beginnings and what the little baby represents in terms of my own new beginnings and so on. So that's what you would do with the image. You kind of ponder what it tells you and let it kind of unfold and resonate. And then in the same way that you did with the Lexio, listen for the word from God. So how is that little image a word from God to me? What's God saying to me in that? And then respond as you did before. And finally, as the final step, to be with God in stillness. So, and then another prayer practice is the labyrinth. And Felicia, did you bring or did you just link to?
Oh, I just linked. Is it
Okay,
on the,
it's there on the link to the labyrinth. There it is.
so it's just a link to where the labyrinths are located?
Yeah, so
Fort
see all the
Collins?
little dots there? Those are all labyrinths in Fort Collins.
That's cool. And some people appreciate praying by moving their bodies and make an intention before beginning to walk the labyrinth, and then walking in prayer, walking meditation, making it all the way to the center, and then sitting and standing still in that center, and then walking out. And I didn't check, this is the Worldwide Labyrinth Locator. And so you can narrow an area and find out where the labyrinths are, and then you can click on them individually and find out, you know, if they're open to the public. If they're listed, most of them are open to the public. But it might take a little figuring out how to get to them. And some of them are different sizes, but this is the Google image
Oh, cool.
of where it is, what it looks like.
Is that the one that's way north?
Yeah, where is that?
Where is that?
It's funny, it just has the latitude.
College, I don't know what kind of road 32 is.
Oh, that's the one that's out at the Pathways Center. Now
Oh,
heading towards, yeah,
Right.
it's heading towards Windsor on 32, so it's outside of,
Outside 392.
yeah, 392, that's right. Yeah. I know, right?
Yeah.
Is that where it actually takes?
And that's
Oh.
open, isn't it? It is, I think, open
To the public?
I
Oh, it would have,
don't
I
know
think,
that
if
for
that,
sure, but
that was.
it
still
doesn't
active.
seem closed.
Yeah, yeah. I guess you'd have to do a little searching around to find it.
Oh, it's pretty visible
Is it?
if you're in the parking lot.
Mhm. They've done some new construction over there. It's all visible.
And then I know there's one at the Plymouth Congregational Church, which is up on Prospect. It's a little bit hidden, so just anyway, a map to where those are locally.
One thing I've done here in our contemplative time on Friday afternoons is take the printed labyrinth and either trace it with your finger, or I've colored one color going in and a different coming out, taking something into the center with me that I can leave behind, moving out.
So we're still doing contemplative church on Friday afternoon?
Yeah. Contemplative art, yeah.
It just went out of my head. Didn't think about it.
I appreciate you saying that, because not all of us have mobility to access a labyrinth,
Yeah.
but that's a way to access it with your finger through tracing it. It still provides that intentionality and meditative opportunity.
I gave it when Evan and Elijah first started coming. Because Elijah especially has to move.
Did you? Yeah.
And so doing that and forgiving yourself when you're outside the lines, but it is really, and your mind is focusing on that, and that helps the monkey mind, because and we have them in the office, so we could even go get one and give. I bet we have cardboard ones still in the office.
I bet we do, yeah. Yeah. Would you?
Yeah.
Thanks, Dan.
It's, they're on the desk, kind of, you know where they are.
Yeah.
Lori,
Yeah.
I have a map on my, or not a map, an app on my phone. It's called Labyrinth Journey. I found out about it because I attended some online labyrinth walking experience at some point. And I think that was one of the options. Like if you didn't have a paper one or a carved wood, you know, something, and you just put your finger on the screen and you go all the way, which was kind of hard and wobbly on a phone. Maybe if you had an iPad, it would be easier to do, but it's pretty cool. And it's just, that's all that's on there. Is there's the charts, there's the labyrinth, and you just do it with your finger and go back out. But that's sort of, it's in your pocket if it's on your phone.
Yeah, no kidding, yeah. So you can take whatever moments that you have,
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow,
look at there.
look at that.
That's perfect.
Thank you.
And I have some at home, so I don't need
You-
one.
Well, we can make more too. Take what you
Nice,
want,
thank
we'll
you.
make more. But yeah, so with these, the cardboard ones, it's really handy not just to move them through with your finger, but like Jan said, to do art, color, yeah.
A crayon.
Crayon or markers or pencil or whatever.
Pencil.
Yeah. I like to make little patterns and then change the pattern, or do Zentangle like Judy loves to do. That's really fun too, to do Zentangle inside the lines of the labyrinth.
Yeah.
All of which again slows you down, makes it intentional, makes it a place where you meet God. So yeah. That's it. What do you have?
I was just gonna say, it's one of the things that drew me to the Episcopal Church was the liturgical seasons of the year. And Advent is another liturgical season. And it's, bookmarked. There's a beginning and there's an end. So the intentionality in which we enter into the season is so helpful to focus our mind and our spirit. So I'm thankful to a church that has liturgy and invite you to consider there are many ways to observe the season.
Yeah.
So thank you for all the resources, Lori.
So
And
I
then
will-
I do want to let people know we are having a Advent study on Sundays after church. And it's called The Light of the World. And Amy Jill Levine, a New Testament scholar, is the one that has written this. And there are videos associated with it. So we'll be doing this after church on Sundays during Advent. And we also have a midweek service on Wednesday evenings. It's a soup supper at 5:45. And then it has a service of Holden Evensong, a sung service after that in the sanctuary. We also have a Blue Christmas service. And the date is
on the 14th of December. It's a Thursday and it will begin at 7. And that one will be down the hall in the Mary Chapel. We'll have it there.
And all of these are available on Zoom.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is zoomed.
Lots of opportunities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you betcha. And thanks everybody for coming and participating in all this.
Thank you for the wealth of information.
Yeah,
Helpful.
thanks for compiling all that. Yeah.
You betcha.
Thanks. Have a blessed Advent.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.